As one we walk this earth together. As one we sing to her our song. As one we love her. As one we heal her. Her heart beats with our own as one. As one we join with her, our mother. As one we feel her sacred song. As one we touch her.
Welcome. You have found your way to Souls Emerging, a production of Shadow Genesis through Rise Multiversity. We extend a heartfelt welcome to you. You are the Ascension. We invite you here to join with us, holding space for transformation, ours, yours, and our mother planets. Here we are friends, engaging in the inner work, while supporting one another as we break our chains. Being present for ourselves and each other through deconstruction and soul reintegration allows us to shift and heal. The impulse to share the miracle of transformation in community has brought us out of separation. We now invite you to join this healing circle as we voyage into fertile ground where innate intelligence reboots, blossoms, and finds solution. Ancient and new abilities emerge among trusted, transparent friends. Our aim is to inspire metamorphosis towards freedom and sovereignty. Let us apply our passion for truth to break free, build personal velocity, transcend the matrix control grid. We are all individually the Ascension. We are all a fractal of our planet, of all that is. We have the ability to commune with her directly, share her aspirations and her birth pains. Regardless of how gruesome it appears out there, we have the ability to shift out of distortion, out of imposition. We have the choice in each moment to rise. Welcome.
Her heart beats with our own as one.
Welcome. This is Sienna Lea, Inceptor of Rise Multiversity, and I'm here today with a radical circle of soul sisters. Together we invite you to join in on our research that we've been engaging in for over a year and a half. What if we had all that was required to embody life-supportive global transformation right now? What if we could melt the imposed barriers of suspicion, fear, and separation at a grassroots level, stepping into a potency that could gently topple the matrix control grid? Well, we are a grassroots gathering of women who have been working their stuff, supporting one another through the layers of deconstruction and reintegration. Following the concept of the 100th monkey, we believe that small groups of people willing to step into organic connection can stimulate great shift. Stepping through the invisible shields that have enforced our separation, we can embark as a new peace armada staying the course amidst stormy seas. The ascension becomes integral to our ascension. Can we learn from one another as we complete our journeys? Can we reclaim lost and stolen fragments of self? Can we move past the taboo against knowing who we are and our inability to feel ourselves and one another? Can we bust free from our isolation and targeting, black sheep going against the status quo? Could our strength be in our courage to individually pull off the blinders in full empathy and transparency with one another, we have found ourselves in pieces, engineered to hide in forbidden places, ashamed, fearful, feeling less than. What if we came out, a clear reflection to illuminate the shadowlands for one another, taking back our power from the voices that tear us apart? What if we hold those keys? What if a new radical transparency is ours to bust holes in this mean-spirited system once and for all? We open to this possibility now with you, diving in with loving kindness, without judgment, making mistakes, reclaiming freedom, re-establishing our right to sovereignty. Done with the distortions, flowing home, embracing our organic intelligence. We are becoming a new gestalt of potent peace warriors, excavating baggage, dropping drama, unearthing the energetics to live in non-reactivity. They have kept us apart for so very long because they know we have what it takes. So welcome to this tender nest of women mustering their courage to open their deepest emerging selves with you, knowing it just may be a revolution of vulnerability brewing. What will it take to birth a high vibrational fun field where our love softens the blows and builds the fortitude to rise together? Let's find out. So welcome. This is Soul Sisters Rising, Sienna Lea, with a group of incredible women. And it is the 27th of January. Really not that many days since the new president was elected. And the marches were initiated. And I wanted to bring this fairly awakened group of women who have been working long and hard on themselves individually and supporting one another on that journey now for several years, and of course individually many years, doing the inner work to regain balance, to be centered, to be authentic, and to step out of all of the patterns and programs of the old paradigm of the psychological self that we've all worn for eons of time. So I want to read this thing that I wrote. We're going to sort of share round robin, and then we're just going to dive into sharing a discussion around the dark feminine and how that rolls out. So who would like to begin?
I am beside myself with shock and awe at where women of our world actually are stepping back and taking a deep breath. I know that after several millennium of abuse, suppression, and total subjugation, the collective she is very frustrated, fed up, and pissed, and bears so much generational pain that she is terrified of going into it. Made to be either whore or housewife, until very recently, women have had to stand down and support men to survive. It is only within recent history that she has been given any equal rights. The tragedy that needs healing and can be healed is that we women have become distorted in our psyches from all this abuse. Our true essence of love, generosity, care, connection, playful solution making, and female common sense wisdom have all been mutated. Witches were burned at the stake for having intuitive and healing skills. Church and all patriarchal religions condemn women as inferior, dirty, and even demonic. For thousands of years during the Inquisition, or 1,000 years, during the Inquisition, there was a literal holocaust against the feminine side of our psyches. These memories resonate in our DNA and are passed down through the parts of our ancestors that live within us. So we have broken women who want the right thing but lack the wherewithal to stand up for what they really want. Remake this world in love. Sadly, all this feminine frustration can now be used as fuel for the global agenda.
Their power for constructive change is now distorted into being against a man, President Trump. Trump is truly our shadow. That is what we have become as a nation, USA, just like him. We are him. He has no real moral compass. He is a total me-first consumer pig, brash, harsh, and out to make America great. Too bad the rest of the people. We are horrified. Come on, peeps, time to put on your big boy and girl pants and grow up. We have been reaping the benefits of the America consumer society all of our lives. Now when its underbelly is in our face, we freak out? Please, that is us. We have been complicit with horrible, inhumane practices around the world to keep us full of stuff. Life is showing us through dear President Trump what is wrong with us. The real action that would create a change is for us to get it this time and for us to live from a different template of values. Everyone gets to be unique. Everyone wins. Everyone has abundance. No one is a demon. Love reaches us, teaches us how to heal all that we have fallen into despair, all that have fallen into despair. That is the wisdom of the returning feminine. We can do it. But it's a healing learning curve. Trump is well who he is, but hello, he is actually exposing the global criminal satanic power elite that have taken our world from us. They need to not control us any longer. We need to rise and take back our world.
Protesting our wounded, pathetic shadow, who in his wild ego thinks he's going to save us, is such a waste of this precious opportunity. Let's heal the inner one who is controlling our lives, the true villains, if one wants to find the real one. Well, in truth, if one wants to find the real one, we must look within. We have been broken, ripped from our heart, embodied essence, then reprogrammed to be aggressive, competitive, controlling, manipulative tools for Queen Bitch, the dark, feminine, collective, unconscious, full of hatred, generational for men, just to survive, sisters. Queen Bitch is an energy created in part from the pain body of all women. Queen Bitch is here to stop the revolution, not to help it along. She's the dark side of God and does not have our best interest at heart.
She is a taker full of jealousy and narcissistic selfishness in the extreme. She's a huge energetic vampire that right now is the hidden hand informing women to be, well, stupid at a critical moment when we could be shifting the world back into balance. No one wants to put down women, but heads freaking up. Women hold the power, and that power is in distortion due to eons of imposition. No blame, no shame. Let's look her in the eyes and not play into her hand right now, sisters. As the feminine force returns to power, let us learn together how to do it truly our way, the way of the natural woman, not the way of the wounded dark feminine. And all the women who lead the world are men with female bodies. Now that men are not that men are bad, it's all programmed from the invisible controlling hand that has engineered this place to be their feeding ground. Bottom line, our dumbed down, damaged selves are traumatized, and we do not live within reality any longer. Our task is to embody our true nature again. We have been spoon-fed so many false lies all throughout our education. We fight the wrong battles for the right reasons. Let's stand for a new way, a way of love and compassion outside polarity, and do the inner work to have love live in us as us. Let's be the force of reconciliation, kindness, and rational, true heart-based intelligence. Let us put our lives on the line, creating wonderful new spaces that are safe for people to engage within and heal. Let us all do our small part to bring back love and care. Let us stand tall and firm to end all protests. Let us only engage in the true feminine way, inclusion, solution-based action, calmly doing no harm. Let us learn by healing our own wounded souls within communities of awakening souls. Let us research how to bring people together to cooperate. Let us not make anyone bad or wrong, but find the positive, transformative, redeeming qualities in this and all situations, women, dear sisters, and rise together.
So I'm going to open up the conversation. As women, what are your feelings about this global march after the inauguration? And these are two, and you can take it from any side you want. These first two. What does owning our shadows have to do with it?
Sienna?
Yeah?
Yeah. I felt that this awakening is ragged, that people's impulses being stirred, and there again, like the timeline that's crumbling, the gravitational pull is really strong to continue in the ways that we knew, rather than shifting into the unfoldment. And the Women's March it's a mixed bag, of course, like a lot of these things.
Yes.
And even the imposition itself, there's 80% truth and 20% hoodoo. Yeah. And so, the percentages vary, but while the intent of many women, I suspect, was honorable, that was mixed with a lot of dishonorable intent. And that was further perpetuated by the imposition that really has always used women and our power. And it felt like a feeding frenzy. It felt women were...
Dive into that a little bit more from your own perceptual awareness. Who was feeding and who was in frenzy?
Well, the whole march really felt orchestrated. It felt orchestrated by the powers that have been. And rather than reflecting the feminine creativity for solutions and the essence of what femininity is, I'm not talking about softness necessarily. I'm not talking about frills and lace. I'm talking about authenticity. This wasn't about unity. It was more division. It was againstness. And that's not women. Women are unifiers. We give birth. We have the capacity to give birth to a multitude of things, ideas, if nothing else, that is our essence, is the creative impulse. And that division was very artificially injected into the conversation. So the whole notion of being against something at the outset, to me, was an indication of who was benefiting from it. And however you feel about St. Teresa, she said she would never accept an invitation to a war protest, but if you invited her to a peace rally, she would come. And it's that sort of impulse where to me it was pretty evident who was stirring the pot and who was reaping the benefits, and that's the imposition.
So it seemed to you that, or did it seem to you, and other people can join in, that this was engineered in that there was this vat of impulse for change, having enough, not wanting to take it anymore, this call to be making a different reality is a beautiful thing. And the fact that women were out on the streets all over the world saying enough is a beautiful thing. We need to make that very clear. And certainly the majority of the women that went with love in their hearts, didn't they? And wanting to create change and wanting to create shift. But this is such uninformed action because it didn't make any sense, or did it achieve any end other than it created a lot of reactivity, a lot of more hatred, of polarization. There seems to be a very big wave of, as this, we were talking about it earlier, as these waves of irradiation are coming in and the magnetic shields are down, we are absolutely being saturated with radiation, which is very high, intense, burnt. It's bringing everything up. And if we're not dedicated to peace, to living and embodying kindness and balance and non-reactivity, this can throw us into the deep. It's going to throw, people are losing it all over the place. And I don't know what more to say than that.
I think you're right. The reactivity was very indicative.
Yeah, the reactivity. I noticed that there was not only the reactivity, but this was happening all over the world. I know that I don't know, I haven't totally researched it, but it seems it started in Washington, D.C. I don't know who came up with the idea. I don't know if it was, I'd like to feel that it was someone with people with good intent from the beginning. And then that has been infiltrated because it wouldn't, as it's been pointed out, it wouldn't be all over the world 24/7. People all over the world wouldn't be marching against Trump. And that's what you saw on the corporate media. It was against. Here we have this incredible planetary alignment, the solar system. Completely, we're in the middle of this. The whole solar system is aligned and moving forward together, harmony, and actually very good for a presidential inauguration and many things. And so it was like it was taken and to move against what was moving, what was working for us as people, as women, in standing for a change for all, not for women and for all, for the good of all. It became something that was, and not everyone, but it became something that was against. And it was like taking that energy. So I noticed that not only did that happen all over the world, and how could that be in 24/7 on the corporate media, if it was a real deal grassroots, it wouldn't have gotten that kind of coverage.
No, no way.
Agreed.
No. And also that there was not, I didn't see one, even not only on the corporate media, but very little bit on the alternative media about this APDM, All Planets in Direct Motion. And so the steering of this thing became obvious to me that that it's a co-opted, it's now a movement, and a co-opted one at that. And I see that, and the divisiveness and stuff, and the thing that I see is that, well, through the years, I've just briefly, I have noticed that with my friends and associates that tend to be liberal Democrats, I've never been a party member or even voted for president, actually, because I always understood somehow that it didn't make a difference. So I have noticed how they've become, when, if a Republican is in, this is just from my experience with these friends, if a Republican is in, everything's bad and everything's horrible, and a Democrat comes in, and it started to get more intense right around when Clinton became president in the 90s.
Well, that's a really big point that we as Americans don't want to know what this Obama was doing for 8 years, and we just want to turn the other way, and we've got to look the shadow in the face, that we're blaming the wrong person. If we're going to look at everything that we are accusing Trump of, these other presidents have been doing, and we have been empowering it with our silence. So we're just being played the way we've always been played, because this is supposed to be the time in this great shift when the divine feminine comes and saves us all. Okay? The female is rising, obviously. There were women all over the world in the streets. This is a real energy. But that we have been culturally programmed, conditioned, and traumatized, dumbed down to do the same friggin' thing. We're out there, power to us. And we're being used by the patriarchy to keep the whole system going. Our energy, the feminine energy, is the juice that fuels. The man is electric. The female is magnetic. They have to have us with the battery, we're the fuel. And we are being misused. Wake up. Let's rise. Yes, let's make a real revolution. Let's transform this world. Let's speak. Let's step forward. Let's rebirth everything in love. Yes, but let's stop being pawns in this sick, satanic game, women. And this isn't just talking at, at Rise Multiversity, I promise in the next few months to be engaged in roundtables and in educational venues for the women who get this, who want to move this energetic outside of the collective unconscious, outside of their own structure. I am super dedicated to providing those spaces so that these aren't just, I certainly don't want to come on YouTube and rant and rave at women. That is not helpful or fruitful either. Speaking these truths is not enough. I know that. If you get even a measure of the truth of this, you're going to want support. You're going to need to process through things. You're going to need a place that's safe, that you can let your hair down and face this stuff and go through what it takes to get real with ourselves and bring this energy forth. Yeah. So. Yeah.
And that's what we've done. Our group, through Rise, that's what Soul Sisters Rising has evolved from, is just that type of program that you just said, Sienna. And it's been phenomenal.
Yes.
We are in an amazing position as a group to have done a lot of shadow work in the past, specifically in the past year, in some really concerted effort on ancestral work, on genetic work. This is significant, really purposeful work. And in the group dynamic, I could never have done this on my own. It just would not have happened, because we're so intimately linked, the ones of us who are hearing this call. We've met here for a reason. We're reconvening. And so our work is each other's work. And the amplification of working in the group is impossible to have alone. So yes, and thank you once again.
Oh, okay. So I want to open, and I want everyone to, we can do round robin, as long as we're not, you can just speak if you want to go next. And I would love you to share I would love you to dovetail into your perceptions of the truth of what's occurring and your own direct experience of confronting these energies inside yourself to some extent, and how you found your way through as a support and help for women who might be listening to this going, holy cow.
Well, I was just going to say a brief thing just on something that you had said, which I think is a huge thing for us also, and something that I think we've all been confronting in this group, and that is waiting for someone to save us. You know, like there isn't anybody going to save us except ourselves. And
or to crucify us. You know, we're the victim of Trump. Hello, really? We're the victim of Donald Trump. He's the enemy. This is this, grandiose buffoon. Actually, I like the man. How about that? I like you, Donald Trump. Why? Because you are mad enough to take the job you just took. You're going up against the cabal, the real controllers, and you're trying to do something. You're probably compromised. You're probably sold out. Probably not going to achieve much. Maybe you can. But gosh, you stood up there and you called Hillary a criminal. You're talking about the Fed. You're talking about vaccines. Hello? To me, my brother, you are a breath of fresh air. How's that?
But he's still a reality star character. If you watch the whole thing play out, it's literally like a talking point, a story through line of the Real Housewives. He said this, he didn't even walk his wife to the door. Oh shit, he didn't walk his wife to the door, and so, but he's playing that part of that other reality star and then saying to the other one, like, listen, Hillary, I'm going to take you to the jail and I'm going to do this and this and this. But it's put in this context of a reality show so that it sets people up to take those talking points, those like, leave my pussy alone and get away from all of those things that those women marched about. And sorry if I'm being like, crude or whatever, but these things are, these elements of the story are all like these rudimentary, crude things of femininity and lack thereof. And so he's being a really good reality star. He's just like perpetuating this storyline and being the other.
Oh yes. But yes, he is.
It's a reality.
Well, it's the world stage where, because we don't own our own dark side, it's playing out before us because our souls have collectively agreed we're here to move on, to evolve, and what's out. And we're culturally programmed never to face our shadows, hide them, suppress them, pretend they don't exist. It's Rumpelstiltskin, never call it by name. No, nobody has a shadow. No. But now it's unstoppable with this shifts in energy, and he is, what is he? He's crass, he's selfish. He is America. We're allowing that persona. The rest of the world knows we're Donald Trump. And we're going, oh, God, no. Oh, he's horrible. Oh, he's tasteless. Oh, he's graceless. Oh, I can't cope. Our grand and glorious narcissistic dreams of how important and high-minded and incredible we are as Americans is like, really? Have any of you noticed what we've been doing in our name to the entire third world, just for starters? Yeah. Hello, we've allowed Donald Trump go and have his way, that persona, with the whole world while we're high and mighty and dissociated. And now guess what? We're so shocked. Give me a break.
Well, if I was a woman in Syria whose child blew up in front of me and who watched my husband blow up and watched my whole house go down in flames, etc. Like, there's many of those women, right? Many, not even just in Syria, but the other 6 countries that we've bombed throughout the entire Democratic administration, and that moved right from the Republican administration that's been going on for like almost 20 years. And if I was one of those women and I was watching these women in Washington with these little pink hats on saying, my rights, I am holding signs about their rights, I would be like, oh, these ladies have no idea. But there's such a difference between the First Nation people at Standing Rock and their set point for their making a stand for Mother Earth and making it from the point of a women's perspective. There's such a difference between their way of going about it and this women's march. None of the Native American women were holding signs, were dressing themselves up as clitoris.
Vaginas. They have vaginas on their head. We can say vagina. It's okay.
Yeah, with a
Pussy power.
Yeah,
Don't grab our pussies. We're not gonna let you have our pussy now. We're gonna get in your face, motherfucker.
Yeah, no, they were standing. No, they weren't like they were standing for the planet and for her children and your children and their children's children, like a woman does. And all these other women were just crying. I mean, now, I'm not saying all these other women, but there was a thread. There was a sort of media that the media picked up that these, you know, that the storyline was that these women were crying for their own rights, that they're being so persecuted in America because a lady didn't win the presidency and a man did it, you know. Once again, the less qualified man got the job over the woman, and making this weird story up that has nothing to do with divine feminine truth.
No, but the scary part is we're not in reality, ladies. We are not even in reality. There's, you know, it's this is the part that scared me the most. Wow, we're really getting some interference. Interesting. Because, you know, if women really get, oh my goodness, my motivation was totally sincere, but I was duped. And yes, I'm going to use this energy for real change. I'm going to cleanse, purify, deconstruct the distortion in me. I'm going to get real with myself, and I'm going to embody the natural woman that is not hated for it. It's not adversarial, and there's an awakening that we need to allow.
Uh-oh. She's coming back.
Yeah, sure.
Did anyone use the march to do shadow work? Because I did.
Really? It's so
I guess so.
I didn't think about it that way, but it definitely, you know, triggered some things in me. Yeah.
Yeah, I at first I was, well, I kind of felt mad and sad. It's like, why now? Did it take one man, to organize this? Is that what it took to get everybody pissed off enough to say we've had enough after all this time? So I sort of immersed myself in everything I could look at and read, and just looking at the worship of the last 8 years, and then the fear that created. It's like, where were these women when, you know, they've been raping Mother Earth? Where were they? Why didn't they organize then? You know, from what the corporate media really made it look like is if they didn't get birth control, they were going to get really pissed off. I'm sorry, that's kind of what it looked like to me. And that's what they put out there. The silly little things, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to call them silly because they're really not. But when you look at the big picture of what's happening in the world, that's such a small part. And so through all that, I went, okay, where am I triggered? Where am I triggered? What's triggering me on this one? Okay, where's that in me? So, sorry, I used the march to try to clean up some of my stuff, because I'm sure somewhere along the line, I've been exactly the same. So it wouldn't have brought up those feelings if they weren't here. So,
what were the feelings that they brought up in you, Liz?
the mad and the sad, and the indignity of why now? Why didn't something else trigger you? Why doesn't wanting clean air and water trigger you this much and want to organize all over the world? I mean, water and air are fundamental. Having clean land to grow your food is just, that's pure survival. And because one man is elected that you don't like, you're going to mobilize? It makes no sense to me. So I made the decision to immerse myself instead of walking away and going, I don't want to feel it. I don't want to deal with it. I just, this is ridiculous. And I used it.
And so how did that roll for you?
It got real ugly. I felt ugly. It was very sad that it's all happening the way it is, the timing.
Yes.
And I had to look at it. Okay, where is that in me? I was asleep for a really long time, and I'm sure there's portions of me that are still asleep, but I want to wake them up. So I'm not going to turn my head. I'm not going to walk away. I'm going to look at it and say, why is this triggering me? Why is this making me mad? Why am I disgusted by a bunch of women wearing pink hats? I'm not really that disgusted, but it's like, to me, they didn't make any sense. And I tried to pinpoint that in myself.
Beautiful. And you're so, I mean, you're, from what I know of you after all this time, your soul came here to bring the pure feminine energy. You were part of the beginning of the setup of this, and people may think that's crazy, but I really don't. You could just say, you know, that your heart is full of wanting this beautiful female purity, the nurturing, the kindness, the unconditional love, the intelligence to help people cooperate and connect and be kind and heal and touch each other and care for each other. The pure feminine is what, you know, we all came here to embody. So this was a huge wound to face, the state of the feminine, that it could be so dumbed down, that it could be still at this late stage in the game. And please, somebody's typing and it's loud. Who is that?
It's something that's only happening when you're talking, Sienna.
Oh, really? I probably have a mouse. That's really weird. Yeah, we're getting such crazy interference right now. So we asked it for cooperation and to help, but we couldn't even stop the interference. So this is showing you this. We're right on the heart of the issue, literally. What is that? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for this, but I can't stop it.
I have something to add.
Yes.
Something to add about what you said, Liz, about the fact that women were marching for, a lot of the subject matter was Planned Parenthood and birth control, right? Well, if we think about that, that's the drugged feminine, 100%. And I had a conversation with my friend that day, and she said, "Oh, Lauren, you realize that we have gained insurmountable amounts of freedom from the pill." And I said to her, "Yes, but at what cost? At what cost? When you are on that drug, you are not connected to your natural female essence. Your natural female essence, your entire clock is being dictated by a pharmaceutical that in your body is patriarchal and doing it with almost militaristic command. So your body is being commanded on a cellular level militaristically by this pharmaceutical, this synthetic thing, and everyone's in the streets marching for their freedom to have it.
Planned Parenthood has been part of the eugenics program from day dot. If you do your alternative history lessons, you will know that it was part of the population reduction program. Those pills create cancer. They totally imbalance women's endocrine system and destroy the female body. And women are out on the street begging for them. Agreed.
And they also mess with your pheromones. So you, like the natural process of you being attracted to a man has to do with your endocrine system and the pheromones that you receive and let off. But your pheromones are being interrupted by that synthetic drug where you might be miscalculated towards some sort of partner or lover to procreate with because you've got a something over you that's not necessary. It's like a goggles. So there's even that.
We're talking about distortion, and I would love to take this conversation in the direction of exposing female distortion, the distortions that we carry. Those of you that have been working on your shadows, can you come forward and share some of the distortions you've had to face that women need to transmute to get out of this mind control trance and dream and wake up to being in reality? Female distortion. Queen bitch.
And
basically, the distortion is that we use our female energy, which is a huge force, a psychic force, emotional force, intuitive force, sexual force. We are connected through the birth process to the mother planet. We have emotional resilience that men do not possess. For however that got engineered and set up, that's another topic. We are a massive force, and it is true that we are just like the indigenous, children, blacks. We have been genocided. We've been attempted to be genocided. I mean, it's been as in a Tsarians, right? We genocided men way back in the day. So it's not like poor us. This has been a repeating cycle. There is research. If you study the work of Michael Tsarian, the female Illuminati, that the feminine has been as destructive as the masculine. But that was way back in the day. As a matter of fact, he posits the thing that there was the genocide of the male race when the females recognized that their bodies were stronger, physically stronger, and they got threatened. And that men have the memory of that destruction, which led them to the imposition of really buying into the suppression of the feminine. So we don't know. But there's so much that has happened that has really, 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 really damaged the females. I mean, what the women have gone through generationally is no joke, okay? And when we have severe trauma, we have distortion, don't we? What is the distortion? The distortion is the ego trying to protect and survive whatever we can grab for ourselves. When people are tortured, they go insane. And we have to, that's part of shadow work, is healing that insanity, healing where we were so tortured that we freaked out and we lost our connection and we were taken over by other energies. All this is in our ancestry. It's in our DNA. And now it is easier than ever to transmute these things. You make them conscious, they just blow out of your field. We're so scared. Women, I think, are so scared. We've been through so much pain, holding families together, being the glue for everything that had to happen. And we're tired, we're exhausted, and we're terrified of the pain that we carry. And I think that this is why we stay in a dream world, in a dream state. And we're still obeying the oppressors. We are still tools of the oppressors. And that has to stop. Liz.
The signs where they're taking their power back. But they gave it to the last 8 years. And now they want their power back because they don't like what they're seeing. What they're seeing is the reflection of what America has become. And they don't like it. And, you know, we as a group have spent a long time, you know, realizing that we're worthy. And all of that. And a lot of these women, I think, are just waking up and they don't know how to deal with it.
It's a heck of a lot to deal with. They're sitting ducks for manipulation, just like the Arab Spring. Lauren.
Exactly.
Well, in that respect, that's the part that I like about it is I can see in having conversations, you know, with you know, one-on-one conversations with people in my life, I can see their woundedness and I can see where they're like starting to work on it, and I think that that's a good thing. And so there's you know, we live in duality, and so there's that goodness that is happening. It's definitely a moving thing when. I mean, in a messy thing, when a bunch of people start waking up at once, right? But in their early waking periods, I mean, it's like the metaphor is they're all in a dark room and somebody tells them a story about what's outside the room and they believe them because they just came from a dream state and they're like, where am I? Oh, I'm in a, you know, completely different place that I thought I was. And so they're being manipulated in this like very tender early wake up period into channeling their unawareness and their unawareness of their pain into something that's not constructive, thinking that they're being constructive.
Yeah, no blame. You could see it when you've moved the energy of your shadow sufficiently and you've removed the interference and you've faced and you activate your self-love and you bring yourself back in, you do the soul retrieval. There are lots of pieces. You get real with yourself. It's literally like waking up from a dream, isn't it? Isn't that what we've been experiencing? Waking up from a dream.
But it has like months and months long painful reconciliations attached to the process. It's not just, oh, what am I going to do? It's Saturday. It's the sun's shining, and I've got this new hat that I knitted, and I'm just going to go out and tell the world what the hell I think, and then I'm done. No, you're not. You're not done. You're not even remotely done. You're not even remotely done with the beginning.
Tell it.
And I mean, some of my friends, I said, hey, how was the march? And they said, oh, it was good. We marched around to find somewhere to eat most of the time. And I was like, what? Okay. Well, did you find a place? I hope you did. I'd hate for you to go hungry.
Yeah. Okay. Let's tackle another one of these questions here.
Sienna, did you want like a personal, you asked about, you know,
I would love that. I would love that.
For me, it was, I mean, we start with the I, but then it quickly goes into the we, because the experience of the feminine has been so universal in its oppression. And so that, therefore, the fundamental question is safety and survival. And we're triggered with that a lot. in a way that the masculine isn't. We have almost constant questions of, am I safe? And the survival mechanism is incredibly strong. Our body has its own wisdom, survival. And I see that from most of the experience where I had a brush with near death, and there was a place where, for me, it would have been very easy to go, and almost preferable, and yet there, once the choice was made to stay, my body's wisdom to survive was incredibly strong. And so I think through time and moments in our own lives, but I'm also speaking about heredity and genetics, what we've inherited, are these impulses for survival, and they chip away at us and they fragment us. And we do what we can, we do what we need to do to protect our children, to protect ourselves, to survive, to hang on and not get our heads lopped off. I mean, I've gone through a couple of different modalities working with the throat area from being choked, past experiences. I know that that's in my lineage as well. Women did not have a voice. So it's the question, is it safe? Is it safe? And power expresses itself through the masculine. So you align yourself with a man. And I'm safe with a man, and I'm now safe with power through a man. And that's a distortion. That isn't healthy. But that's where women, that's what our choice has been.
What still, the march was, in a way, building up our negative power through publicly hating a man. I mean, in some way, some sick, distorted reversal of this very same thing you're describing.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. So if we flip the coin, and now it's the female voice that's superior, right? Then it's nothing more than the same hierarchical model, just flipped. And that's definitely not, that's not, I think that's not the trajectory where we're going. That's not why we're doing what we're doing.
So where are we going? What is the trajectory? And how do we end just taking a different position on the chessboard over generation upon generation upon generation?
It's the integration that we've been talking about. And even in the, there's a lot of talk about it in the New Age community. So it's not necessarily an undiscussed topic. It's just a matter of layers of awakening. How far are you willing to go for the answers? How much healing are you willing to do? Is it just to the point of comfort, all love and light and butterflies? Or are you willing to really put in the effort to excavate, to heal the dynamic that we inherited, to heal the dynamic we came here to say, it ends with me?
Right on. Right on. So how does, when you really decide it ends with you, what do you commit yourself to?
The reintegration. And that what that looks like for me is recognizing that every place that I'm triggered, just like I was talking about, using, and I wanted to comment really quickly on the word using, more like utilizing the event as a way of investigating the triggers and what that's about. These trigger points are nothing more than splintered aspects of ourselves asking to come home. They're knocking on the door saying, hey, I'm ready. Will you bring me in? They're not shadows that are there to scare us out of our wits and, have us running for the hills. These are elements of ourselves. This is part of our wholeness. So yes, we heal that, we sit with it. If it's an inner child, we hold it. If it's an event that we need to resolve, we acknowledge our part in it. And we thank the other party for their participation and know that this was a co-created event. And with love and gratitude, we bring it home.
Just feel like sitting with that for a minute. That was very beautifully stated, Alice. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to hear from others of you as you feel called to speak, because I know that we all have, from a very deep core of our passionate female hearts, this has stimulated some deep, deep realizations and impulses to be a counterforce, a force for sanity, force for standing at ground zero beyond reactivity, a force for transcending duality, a force for deconstructing all the impositions and distortions we carry to birth this new pure beauty that is the gift from life itself in massive abundance, pouring into us every second with exquisite creative flow, begging us to co-create this with her, with the planet, with Source, just bombarding us, blasting, planets aligning. And this kind of force can cause us to create mass polarization, mass torture, mass misunderstanding. Are we going to really go that way, women? Are we going to really be taken by this storm into hell rather than lead, as is in the female heart, lead and unite into the heavenly realms? In some ways it really is. That's the ascension myth, but that's where we are going, embody these heavenly realms. We are the high priestesses of that transition. We are the gatekeepers, asking humanity, helping to develop the values of authenticity, of truth, of kindness, of sanity, of justice, of moral, true moral values, of living with eyes wide open no matter how it is, of calling things out when we know things are wrong, of looking things directly in the face and taking responsibility. This is the feminine in action.
I'd like to add to that, honoring. I feel like we need to step past the worship aspect, even if it's goddess worship. You know, it's this whole worship notion that we are somehow outside of ourselves, that there's something still bigger than we are, that it's all about connecting with, you know, that higher self, that bigger being. And yes, there are aspects of us that are much expanded into other realms and dimensions, etc. And connecting with that is very fruitful. But the point is of honoring, not worshiping. No aspect of us wants to be worshipped. And that is an old model as well. The honoring is where the sweetness is. So there's, you know, even within that worship model, there's a distortion.
There is. And moon worshiping. Please, women, stop worshiping the moon.
Yes. Yeah. Find out.
Stop outsourcing. You know, we really are this amazing power. Women in this room are discovering that. Are you not? I mean, it may come and go. We still are in flow. None of us are perfected beings, but is there not another force emerging when we face truth? I mean, isn't it a, you know, they have the initiation at the gateway, right? You don't pass through unless you pass that test, there's certain ways that you're not going to be privy these upgrades, to these waves of energetic bliss, to the enlightenment, to this incredible expanded heart essence that is so delicious, to this love that we radiate that is beyond duality. You get there, aren't there? And I'd like to like open this up a little bit to what did you have to go through? Where were your places that you had to face, that you had to break through, that you had to be willing to allow? Because each one gets us closer to that integration. This is what we've been experiencing now for years together. So, and I know it's hard. It's hard just because I know I'm a bit still in shock from the reality of what we're addressing here. And it's hard in a state of shock because then we tend not to want to be quite as vulnerable. But if any of you can share any of the stages of the things, the real nitty-gritty of what you had to face, just as a gift to women who may just be like listening to this and going, huh, Lauren?
I don't know if this is like a proper way to address the question, but I found that during the march, it just so happened that a friend of mine called me and said, "Can I come over? You were the only." He was in Mexico when a few weeks ago, where a club got shot up by cartels. And he had to escape, and 5 people got murdered, and he saw a murdered person, and it was like this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And I called him and said, "Hey, just wanted to check in on you." And he said, "Can I come over on the day of the march and just hang out? You were the only person who called me." And I said, "Oh, sure." And it just so happened that I got chocolate croissants and made beautiful tea and just hung out with my friend and said, "I'm here for you. Tell me how you feel." And I anchored in this terror that he has been grappling with, this trauma and PTSD. And in 2004, I was held up at gunpoint and sexually assaulted, and had to go from 2004 to 2017 of healing myself. And then on the day of this march, I'm not out there marching. I'm dealing one-on-one, able, as somebody who has put together all the pieces of myself through all this trauma, able to like just be there like a divine feminine presence of healing of my friend who just went through it. So I think that, we go through, as women who are traumatized, because we all are, we have to go through these hoops, and sometimes they take 10 years, sometimes they take 20 years. I don't know, and then once we get there, we can be this powerful beacon of truth for people who are going through it. And I just found it to be...
Even men.
What?
Even men. It's so important for what you said. That's beautiful that you did that. And I've spent the last year with men that have been damaged by the pieces of queen bitch that have been operating in their wives and their lovers and their girlfriends and their mothers. And some of the men that I have been guided to help, because they have unbelievable potential for this change and for the shift to be leaders and way showers. They are all under siege by queen bitch. They are getting it. Some of them are getting it. I have been so horrified by what women have done to men, what mothers have done to their children, the deprivation of touch, the withholding of care, the conditionality of love that have thrown men back into these archaic patterns of patriarchy, of domination, suppression, the wounded inside. The men haven't been allowed to feel. And they've had to be strong in all of this programming, so they can't be real, they can't be authentic, they're not being supported. And they get co-opted into being dicks. Yeah, they do.
Well,
and now we march and protest against them and wave our hands at them and blame them. Well, who's their mother?
And we practice genital mutilation against men. it's widely accepted and almost preferred and well into normal to practice genital mutilation on a young boy the first hours of his life.
Can you imagine the trauma in the most tender?
Why they're torturing us?
That's right. It's the dark feminine. It's our female shadow. That I'm not saying we're all to blame, but really, who raises boys? Who spends the time really deeply programming their bodies at a DNA level? It's the mother. And if we don't step up and own our own shadow, that we are responsible for this situation and face this distortion, this Nazi, angry, hurtful, vengeful, wounded, shut down, crazy, mad, feminine, then we are culpable for the state that the world is in.
Absolutely. It's one thing to inherit it. It's another thing to perpetuate it.
As one we sing to her our song. As one we love her. As one we heal her. Her heart beats with our own as one. As one we join with her our mother. As one we feel her sacred song. As one we touch her. As one we heal her. Her heart beats with our own as one. As one we walk this earth together. As one we sing to her our song. As one we love her. As one we heal her. Her heart beats with our own as one. As one we join with her our mother. As one we feel her sacred song. As one we touch her. As one we heal her. Her heart beats with our own as one. As one we walk this earth together. As one we sing to her our song. As one we love her. As one we heal her. Her heart beats with our own as one. As one we join with her our mother. As one we feel her sacred song.